Alright, welcome back. This is still MA Ido, and it's still real class, of course. And in our previous videos, we had explained some of the poems that we have. This time, we are looking at another non-African poetry, and it's She Walks in Beauty by Lord Byron. She Walks in Beauty, it's a panegyric poem. What's a panegyric poem? A poem that is composed to celebrate. Alright, it's otherwise referred to as encomium or eulogy, and this very poem by Lord Byron is actually written to praise the wife of his cousin when she walks into a party, elegantly, so glamorously and sophisticatedly dressed. Alright, so he decides to write this poem to appreciate her, that she's just beautiful in and out. Her physical beauty also shows how her heart is pure deep down inside of her. Alright. Yes, the poem is made up of 3 stanzas and of course 18 lines, and the subject matter is of course physical and inner beauty expected of one in this life, of which the woman has proven to demonstrate. And let's look at the main point. Her beauty joins both dark and light. Alright, that means there is no form of negative aspects that you can find in her life. Alright, when you are looking for darkness or light, everything is joined together inside of her. The beauty of darkness, the beauty of the light, everything is demonstrated as a form of beauty in her life. In other words, you can't look at darkness and call it a negative aspect. Alright, when it talks about her life, you can't look at light and look or see any form of negativity or negative aspect in it. Whether darkness or light, everything is joined as beauty as far as the woman is concerned. In a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that everything about the woman is positive, both the darkness and of course light. And her beauty is balanced. In other words, nothing hinders the nameless grace. She's graciously made. Alright? Very much like the man in the poem titled I've forgotten the name, sorry. I wanted to. Yes, welcome back. This is still MA Ido, alright, and of course, real class is still what we are into right now. In our previous classes, we had discussed some of the poems that we have, and this time we are looking at another non-African poem, and this time it's She Walks in Beauty by Lord Byron. Okay, where the subject of discussion is a woman, a beautiful lady that has no negative impact in her life. Everything about her life is positive. She's very beautiful in and out. There is nothing absolutely you can see in her that you can question as being negative. Very much like the persona in the poem titled Richard Curry. Okay, where anytime Richard Curry walks in the street as a very handsome man, nobody sees anything negative in her, or in him rather. Okay, the same thing with this lady in this poem titled She Walks in Beauty. And the poem is a panegyric one. A panegyric poem is a poem composed to, celebrate someone or an individual. And it's also referred to as encomium, or you call it eulogy. The poem is made up of 3 stanzas and 18 lines, okay? And the subject matter is physical and inner beauty, okay? That means anytime you see the woman, when you look at her physical appearance, you think she's just beautiful outside, but within her, that's how beautiful she is too. And this poem is composed to celebrate the wife of his cousin who walks in beauty to a party. And then because he has, never seen such a person with perfect qualities in and out, he decides to show how glamorous, how sophisticated, how elegant she appears to be in her looks and all of that. Now let's look at the main point. Number 1, her beauty joins both dark and light. That means dark and light are usually separated. But because of her kindness, her beauty, dark and light have been joined together to become one. That shows you the lovely nature of the woman in question. And her beauty is balanced. Alright? Balanced meaning in and out. The way she's beautiful outside, within her, she's as beautiful as that. Alright, so nothing therefore hinders the nameless grace. Alright? The kind of grace the lady carries is not something that can be quantified. No one can see anything to actually qualify it. In fact, no right adjective to qualify the grace the woman is carrying. Okay, that's why they call it nameless grace. In other words, what manner of grace is this woman carrying? Alright, that her inner beauty is the same way her physical beauty appears to look like. And she's very peaceful. Anytime you see the woman, she's a peaceful woman. She's very calm, all right? And her face is as gentle as that of a lamb, all right? Yes, and if you check further the feature of the lady, she's pure and dear. In other words, no negative thing in her life, right? She smiles, and then you would want to appreciate her smile. She walks, you would want to appreciate her walks. She talks, you would want to appreciate her talk. Everything about her is just something you would wish to have, all right? Her inner goodness and peace is something that is also completely captured and brought before in a poem, all right? Inner goodness, she's good inside of her heart. Outside too, she shows the kindness, all right? And she's beautiful in and out, to sum it up right there, all that we have been saying before. And her person is reflected on her face. When you see her face, you see love. When you see her face, you see gentility. When you see her face, you see humility. All those qualities that are physical you see is something you see again inside of her, all right? Then you have nothing absolutely is negative about her life, and she's eloquent. She's a good speaker, all right? She's vast in all areas, quite, educated and all, and she smiles beautifully. She's not ugly in any way. Right from her head to her toe, everything is perfect about her. And then she's a winner. She's never a loser. Whatever she does, she wins, all right? And then her, her face and everything about her appears to be what? Innocent, all right? She has a pure heart, a heart of gold, all right? And that's that about she walks in beauty, a point that looks at both the inner and the outside beauty. That one is not supposed to be beautiful just physically, but internally or inwardly, one is supposed to actually demonstrate this high level of beauty too. All right, so that's that about the summary of this point. So in our next video, we are going to be looking at the various themes and of course the literary techniques embedded herein. All right, welcome back. This is still real class. I still remain your guide, M.A. Ido. All right, in our previous videos, we had discussed, the thematic preoccupation or thematic concern of the poem by way of the subject matter. And we have looked at it as a poem written against the background of both physical and, internal beauty. This time we are looking at a poem against the background of the themes and of course the literary devices therein. Number one, physical and internal beauty. It is very important we note that according to the poet, one should not just be physically beautiful, but internally the beautiful nature of one should be completely captured. Innocence and purity. The woman in question is very innocent in her doings and goings, and she's very pure in whatever she does. And if you look at her, she's very calm, and the environment she finds herself is serene. That's the theme of tranquility and serenity. And then let's look at the literary devices theory. Number one is imagery. Pictorial representations in poetry is referred to as imagery. The dominant imagery in the poem is visual imagery, okay? The dominant imagery is visual imagery. Now let's look at simile. Of course, the use of as or like gives us simile. And she walks in beauty like the night. Also shows, another device there which is simile. Contrast. Ideas or words running in opposite direction. Dark and bright. It's an antithesis though, which is a form of contrast. Okay. Yes, alliteration. Where thoughts serenely sweet expressed. That's serenely and sweet express alliteration because of the SS there at the beginning. Then you also have repetition. What's repetition? Repetition has to do with recurrence of words in poetry for the sake of emphasis. So in this poem, we find this example there. How pure, how dear. Alright, so these are repeated for the sake of emphasis. So in our next class, we are going to be looking at another poem, Digging.